Hey students, this is lesson 7-1, estimate sums and differences of fractions. You will need your math workbook, some scratch paper just in case, and a pencil. And then if you have your multiplication chart that I sent home at the beginning of the year, on the back there's a benchmark fraction, little helpful manipulative, so you could get that out as well. Okay, so here's our learning goal today. I can estimate the sum of two fractions. Go ahead and open up your book to page 269, and we're gonna go ahead and get started with our solve and share. So Jack needs about 1.5 yards of string. He has 3 pieces of string that are different lengths. Without finding the exact amount, so estimating, which 2 pieces should he choose to get closest to 1.5 yards of string? Solve this problem any way you choose. So for the pink string, he has 1/2 yard. For the blue string, he has 1/3 of a yard. And for the green string, he has 7/8 of a yard. And he wants 1 full yard and a half. And he's trying to get as close as possible. So this is the little benchmark fractions chart that I was talking about, and it might be kind of hard to see on here. But really they just break it down into, they have a little number line up here. And our benchmark fractions that we round to when we're estimating, really we can go down to 0, we can go to 1/2, or go to 1 whole. Again, when you're estimating, you can round to different numbers, but that's where we're gonna try to round to today in order to estimate some problems. So go ahead and pause the video here, get this this little chart out if you have it, or I posted it on Schoology, and pause it here and give it a try. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look. Well, I know I need one of my string to be about 1 yard. And so if I'm looking at this, well, 1/2 yard, I know, okay, that's gonna go to my benchmark fraction 1/2. 1/3 of a yard, so this is the 3rd row down, would be right about here. So that's pretty close to 1/2. So if I was gonna round 1/3 of a yard, I would probably round it to 1/2. And then I have 7/8 of a yard. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 out of 8. So it goes to about there with the string. And so if I'm looking at my benchmark fractions of 0, 1/2, or 1 whole, I would round this up to 1 whole. You can see that on this little number line, it is closest to 1 whole. So another way to look at 7/8 is it is 1 away from being 8 out of 8, which is equal to 1 whole. If I have 8 pieces out of 8 pieces, I have 1 whole. So for example, with a pizza, if I had 7 pieces out of 8 pieces, I would have almost a full pizza. And so that's another way. If the numerator, so our top number, remember, is the numerator. Bottom number is the denominator. If my numerator is 1 less than the denominator, then that means it's very, very close to 1 whole. So I know I'm going to use my green string because that's about my 1 that he needs. And then I'll use my pink string because that's the 1/2 a yard. So he's going to use pink and green. Okay, let's go ahead and talk through our virtual learning bridge. Okie dokie. So how can we estimate the sum of 2 fractions? So sum, remember, is when we are adding, and when we're estimating, we're going to round these to our benchmark fractions in order to add them a little bit easier. And we're not getting exact amounts, and that's okay. So Mr. Fish is welding together 2 copper pipes to repair a leak. He will use the pipes shown. Is the new pipe closer to 1/2 foot or 1 foot long? Explain. So we are going to estimate the sum 1/6. So he has 1 pipe that's 1/6 of a foot long, and 5/12 for the other pipe that's 5/12 of a foot long, to find how long the combined pipes will be. So the first thing that we need to do is look at them on a little benchmark fraction line. And this is the same little number line that you have at the top of that benchmark fractions little tool that I gave you, and it's posted online on Schoology, remember, so pull it up if you don't have it, or if you have that multiplication chart, it's just on the back of your multiplication chart. So you are going to replace each fraction with the nearest half or whole. So remember, we're rounding to 0, 1/2, or 1 whole. A number line can make it easy to decide if each fraction is closest to those three numbers. So 1/6 is between 0 and 1/2, but it's closer to 0. 5/12 is also between 0 and 1/2, but it's closer to the benchmark fraction 1/2. So when they placed it on the number line for us, and so you'll notice this one's closer to 0 and that one's closer to a half. So to add, find the estimation first. So a good estimation of 1/6 and 5/12 is 0 plus 1/2. And if you look at this 5/12, so 12 is our denominator, what would half of 12 be? Well, 6, okay? Well, 5 is only 1 away from 6, so you know that this is pretty close to a half. It's like if we had 8 as our denominator and maybe 3 as our numerator. Well, what's half of 8? 4. So this one would be closer to a half. So you can start to develop these little tricks to decide where you would round it to if you don't want to look at your chart every single time. So the welded pipes will be closer to half a foot long than at 1 foot long. So each add-in was less than a half, so it's reasonable that their sum is less than 1 because we would need at least a half plus at least a half to get to 1 whole. Okay, let's do some practice problems. Again, I would pull this chart up. It's on Schoology under today's folder, or you can get it out if you have the paper version still. Okie dokie. In 3 and 4, use a number line to tell if each fraction is closest to 0, 1/2, or 1 whole. Then estimate the sum or difference. So remember, sum is when we add, difference is when we subtract. So 11/12 is our first one. Now, I talked about if I have 11 out of 12 pieces, I have almost the whole thing. So this is going to be very close to my 1 whole, and it would round to, or the estimation would be about 1. Now, 1/6, it would be all the way down here. If I were to break this up into 6. So that is going to be closest to 0. So if I'm going to estimate 1 plus 0 is 1 whole. So you would have about 1 there. Okay, let's try number 4. Why don't you guys go ahead and pause here, and I want you to try to estimate 14/16 and 5/8, and then we'll talk about it down here. So go ahead and pause here, give that a try. Okie dokie. So our 14/16 here is only 2 away from being completely full. So if I had 16 out of 16, remember that would equal 1 whole. 14 out of 16 is only 2/16 away from that. So, and we don't even have 16ths broken down that far, but that's a really small amount. So this one, 14/16 would probably be right about there, and that's closest to 1 whole. Now our second one is 5/8, and if I'm running to 0, 1/2, or 1 whole, if I'm looking at 5/8, if my denominator is 8, what is half of 8? Well, 4. So 4/8 and 1/2, those are equivalent fractions. So this is half with 8 as the denominator. So 4 is only 1 away from 5. So this guy is going to be a little bit bigger than 5/8, but not by much. So then we are going to have closest to 1/2. Okay? So now pause the video again. If you are going to subtract, so you're doing 1 whole, take away a half, go ahead for part C, estimate the difference. Okay, let's go through that together. So you had your 1 whole, take away a half. Remember, we've got our difference. And so if I have a whole, I'm taking half away from it. I'm only going to be left with 1/2. Okay, we are going to work on some more problems in group. Great job, guys.